Welcome to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping Orange County. With your host, Don Camber.
Hello, live from the OC Talk Radio studios at UCI's Beal Applied Innovation Center. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Don Camber with another great guest impacting our community in a positive way. Today, I welcome Trauma Intervention Program of Orange County Executive Director Mary Ellen Lowry. She oversees the Trauma Intervention Program of Orange County, which is a chapter of the Trauma Intervention Programs, Inc. TIP is a national nonprofit organization that has 15 affiliates serving over 250 cities across the nation. In each affiliate, citizen volunteers respond to traumatic incidents at the request of police, fire, and hospital personnel to support those who are emotionally traumatized. Thank you, Mary Ellen, for being on Impact OC.
Thank you, Don. It's a pleasure to be here.
Mary Ellen, please explain how your TIP volunteers try to prevent what mental health professionals call the second injury from a victim's perspective.
Well, the second injury, first of all, is a perception. It's a survivor's perception, typically, that the system has failed them in some way, the emergency system. So that may look like after their loved one dies in a hospital, they're left alone in a waiting room and no one gives them any information for hours sometimes. And other situations might be a family member is killed along the side of the road and the body is left in the streets for hours until the coroner can complete their investigation. And no one really can explain this in an adequate way to satisfy a family. That's a traumatic thing to happen. And those are second injuries. They've already lost a loved one, and now they're being injured a second and sometimes a third time.
So what do your TIP volunteers do?
So our TIP volunteers are trained to work really effectively within the emergency system. We understand it well. So we come alongside the survivors, the family members, the friends, the neighbors, and we can assist with information. We can answer a lot of questions. We act as an information liaison between the responders, the medical professionals, and our clients who are the survivors, the family members, and so forth.
Explain the training your volunteers go through.
Wow, our training it's amazing. It's intense. It's a 2-week, very intensive training. It's 55 hours, which is compressed into 2 weeks, and it's taught by nationally certified trainers. We teach emotional first aid, which in a way is kind of uncommon sense. It's things that probably wouldn't come naturally. So we teach not only what to say and what not to say, but how to act, how to reach out, how to get someone organized, how to lead them through their next steps, how to relieve guilt that suicide survivors often feel, just how to help them with all of their next steps. And we teach all of this through a series of lectures. They role play. And then once the training is complete, there's a 3-month mentored program, which means a volunteer goes out with a veteran volunteer for 90 days, just to get that adequate experience.
Who are your TIP volunteers? What are the demographics of them?
They are anyone and everyone. We have a teen program at the age of 16, and we have volunteers as old in our organization as in their early 80s. They come from all walks of life, all nationalities, all backgrounds, from school teachers to nurses to former firefighters to housewives, attorneys, you name it, we've got it. It really, all it takes is a lot of compassion and just that huge heart. The rest of it we can teach them.
So what kind of incidents do they respond to?
We respond to any type of situation where a first responder, that is a policeman, firefighter, hospital, ER, or ICU personnel, feel that their citizen, their victim, or their family could use some assistance, that they're suffering from some type of a traumatic event, and that we could be of use. That might be a suicide, an overdose, a drowning at the beach. It could be just a 95-year-old who wakes up and finds that their spouse didn't wake up next to them. We get lots of that. We have motor vehicle accidents, and we go to the sides of the highway. CHP calls us regularly. We respond to fires and sexual assaults. And there's no call really too large. We respond to mass shooting, critical incidents. We'll also respond to a disoriented senior or a dog that perhaps was struck and killed, and it's the family's pet and they're traumatized over it. So that's kind of one of our mottos, is no call is too small.
So do you go right to the actual incident, or can you be called and then go to the person later?
We're called only by first responders, and so we typically arrive at the scene within hours, if not minutes, of the actual event happening. We're there as kind of the first line of defense to help them through those first early hours when it's so important to get the right assistance. If the first responder would like us to come back, we'll definitely do that. We'll move. Sometimes we'll move from the side of a road to a hospital, to a home, just wherever the responders direct us to go.
And then do you keep in touch with your client, so to speak?
We do not. We make one follow-up phone call, but this is not a long-term program. This is a very short-term program. We're incredibly busy, and we have to keep our volunteers focused on just the immediate aftermath. That's our specialty. We give resources to take them on to their next steps and give them resource guides and all kinds of referral information to help them if they need additional psychological help or just whatever they need.
You say teens are involved. How?
Well, we have a teen program, so these are typically kind of extraordinary students that oftentimes it's a principal or a police officer that recommends them for our program. They will go through the exact same training as their adult peers. And as long as they have a car and a driver's license and their parents approve, they can be part of the program. And they go on the same calls as the adults, just always with somebody. We had one fabulous teen go through our program. She was actually selected by the Orange County Register as one of the 100 most influential people of the year. And she's now in college, doing fantastic in Texas.
So what did she respond to?
She responded to the same kind of calls, suicides. I remember a homicide when she was the first one on the scene, and just handled it beautifully with all of the various residents in the complex. And until her partners arrived, she just did a magnificent job. Very mature teens. It takes a special person, and she was incredibly mature and really would have never known she was 16.
What are the most common incidents that you respond to?
I would say the most common is the death in the home, just the either natural deaths, heart attacks, cancer patients.
So give us an example what happens when you get that call that you need to respond.
So the first responders call usually through their dispatch, and then our dispatch calls the volunteers. They have to be ready to get out of their house within 3 minutes. So they're typically dressed and ready to go on call, and they arrive within 20 minutes, which in Orange County is no easy feat. And they arrive on the scene. They introduce themselves to the first responder, who then in turn kind of passes the baton by introducing them to the family, and that kind of trust goes from the first responder then to the volunteer. Same thing at a hospital. The nurse will introduce us to the patient's family and tell them that, we're there to help them. We're there to assist them with their next steps. And then we will just reach out. Oftentimes, this is just a simple touch. We just want to make that connection. And we will start out with the phrase, "Can you tell me what happened?"
And then?
Most times they are delighted to share, and that what that does is it starts forming that bond, that trust, but it also lets us know what they know. They may not know that their loved one has died.
They'll hear it from a TIP volunteer?
No, they won't hear it from us, but we don't want to say anything until we're sure what they know. So we're not going to walk in there and say, "I'm so sorry for your loss," and they didn't already know. So we just usually start with, "Can you tell me what happened?" And then we will hear what they know, and they will be able to kind of unload a little bit and tell us exactly what they saw, what they observed. And sometimes they don't want to talk about it, and that's fine too. We will just sit with them. Our number one job is to be there, just to be there, to be present, to be that someone that's there solely for them.
And then will that volunteer report back to the first responder to see if you can help provide whatever that person needs, or
if necessary, if there's information that the person needs, if they have questions, we'll go to the first responders and try to get that information for them, or bring the responder or the nurse or the doctor to them and let them answer the question. And if it is, we mentioned we don't give death notifications ourselves. We're there to pick up the pieces. So we don't want to give the bad news, because then there's nobody there to pick up the pieces. So we let them do that, and we can help them in how to say it, but we don't do that ourselves.
what are the requirements to be a volunteer?
First requirement is just a huge heart, compassion, a car, a cell phone, internet, and
Is there time requirements?
there are time requirements. We require 3 shifts per month. There's 3 12-hour shifts. Very flexible. You can kind of pick and choose your schedule, days, nights, but at least 3 shifts per month. Some people do more. And then attend a continuing education meeting once a month for 3 hours.
You have what you call a senior crisis team. Explain what that is.
So the senior crisis team is made up of a subset of the same group, but we would respond in the event of something at a senior living facility, or maybe you have a disoriented senior or something along those lines. So we can help with set them up with, perhaps they need an assisted living arrangement, perhaps they need Meals on Wheels, perhaps they need just some home visitation or social services.
You have a Heroes with Heart Gala coming up.
We do. We're very excited. Our last Heroes with Heart was a few days before everything was shut down before COVID, so it was canceled. So it's been a long time coming, and we're very excited. On April 27th at the Irvine Marriott, we will be honoring our first responders that went above and beyond the call of duty, showed that extra heart to our clients.
Is that a fundraiser for your organization?
It is. It's both a fundraiser and a way to honor first responders.
And how can people get information about this?
They can go to our website, which is tiporangecounty.org, and all the information is on that page, on the donate page. And we'd love to have everyone come and help support TIP and help support our first responders.
And people who've been involved with the organization for a long time, what do they say about it?
Most of them say, including myself, that it's the most rewarding thing I've ever done, bar none. And we have people that have been in it 20 years, and they just, they're passionate about TIP. It is an extraordinary group of volunteers that participate in this organization, and what we are able to do, what we're able to achieve, is just amazing.
And the people you help, what do you notice about them after they encounter your volunteers?
Most of them are so appreciative. I mean, some of them we leave, they're still in shock. We don't do this for the thanks or the kudos, but many, many times we get letters months later just thanking us. They don't remember the name of the person that was there or exactly what was said, but they remember that we were there. They remember that someone came. They call our volunteers angels on a regular basis. These angels just appeared at my doorstep. I don't know who they were, but please thank them for me. We get those all the time.
Explain what emotional first aid is.
So emotional first aid is kind of what it sounds like. It's a set of skills that our volunteers learn. It's reaching out, learning how to reach out, how to communicate with someone in a positive way. We don't want to make it worse. We don't want to cause a second injury. And if you say the wrong thing, that will likely happen. So we teach them what to say, what to avoid saying, how to read the room, how to know when to kind of step in, and we call it doing the dance, when to move in, kind of when to move out, and give them privacy, how to just play all those nuances. We teach them how to organize. One of the skills is how to get someone organized. If they're just running around with a million things on their mind, we sit them down and we help them prioritize what needs to be done next. Do we need to notify your children's school? What do we need to do first? And then we reassure. We bring up, we teach the volunteers, one of the great emotional first aid skills is how to reminisce with the loved ones. Get them talking about the wonderful memories. And that is incredibly beneficial to people who've just lost someone, to be able to talk about positive memories.
What should people not do if someone's going into shock or has just experienced a horrific crisis?
There's a whole series of mistakes that people unwittingly make, unintentionally. One of the very most common is when they approach somebody, they say, "How are you?" And it's like, "Well, how do you think I am? I'm horrible. I've just lost my spouse." And instantly, you feel terrible saying things like that, but it's a natural thing to say. So it's really thinking about what you're saying and just be there. Don't ignore, don't avoid, but you don't have to say anything. Your presence is worth the weight in gold.
Thank you, Trauma Intervention Program of Orange County Executive Director Mary Ellen Lowry, for being on Impact OC. And I thank everyone for tuning in. I'm OC Talk Radio Public Affairs Director Dawn Camber. Have an impactful day.
You've been listening to Impact OC, the only program showcasing the people and organizations shaping our community. Right here on Orange County's only community radio station, OC Talk Radio.